We had a huge crowd at Dutton this morning, several hundred people. I was surprised. I had to turn the microphones really high. Here's a song I've really enjoyed playing over the years. It's by Ricky Skaggs, One Seed of Love. Traveling down life's road, it's not too hard to see. Writings on the wall if you take time to read. Children are hungry and millions are in need. We need to take the time to plant just one seed, seed of love. One seed of love can help a family who's in danger. One seed of love can make a friend out of a stranger. One seed of love can grow and reach each need. You can grow a mountain of love, you just need one seed, seed of love. What are we here for if it's not to help our neighbors? We need to forget ourselves and be more like our Savior. It's still compassion and love for our neighbors. We can grow a mountain of love ones at a time. A seed of love. One seed of love can help a family who's in danger. One seed of love can make a friend out of a stranger. One seed of love can grow and reach each need. You can grow a mountain of love just with one seed, seed of love. One day, many years ago, went across that Calvary, the greatest seed that was ever sown for you and me. Seed of love, the seed of love. Can't help a family in danger. One seed of love can help a friend who's a stranger. One seed of love can grow and reach each need. You can grow a mountain of love with just one seed, seed of love.
So the familiar Sermon on the Mount, as we read in Matthew 5, 1 through 12, I'm reminded of going there and being on the hillside and seeing Galilee and thinking about how it was umpteen years ago. I was with a choir, but my husband and I were not in the chapel. And I heard this beautiful choir singing. I thought, wow, it was our choir, my choir singing. It sounded so good. So from the Sermon on the Mount, we have what Jesus taught us. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God. Amen.
It's amazing when you hear something like, people's, especially young people's attachment to animals like that. The only recommendation I have is don't name them Steve. I mean, it makes it harder. But yeah, I absolutely, it's the story of the sickling calf, me sleeping in a sleeping bag for about a week in the manger with the calf, trying to get it through. Everybody said, give up on him, he's too sick, he's not going to make it. But I was bound and determined, just to make sure he did. And he got bigger than life and way too human-friendly. But I loved the music, good guy. I thought maybe that the congregation might ask us to repeat what we've done before and give a sermon. And so a couple months ago, I came up with finding harmony in a troubling world. I said, wow, that's a good challenge for all of us. In the Bible, harmony, often linked with the unity and peace, describes a state of agreement, concord, and harmonies, relationships between people, and also with God. It reflects God's desire for order and peace, both within the individual and relationships with one another. Living in harmony means aligning ourselves with God's will, which includes loving God and loving one's neighbor. Harmony in relationships identifies unity and concord. The Bible emphasizes the importance of unity and harmony within the believers' community, encouraging believers to live in harmony with one another. Love as the foundation. Love is presented as the essential element that binds together individuals in harmonious relationships. Forgiveness and humility are crucial components of harmony. The mind of Christ. Living in harmony involves having the mind of Christ and seeking to understand, agreeing with others, even when they're different from us. Harmony with God, aligning with God's will. Harmony with God involves aligning ourselves with His will, which includes love, obedience, and seeking His guidance. Spiritual harmony can be fostered through prayer, intercession, allowing the Holy Spirit to work in one's life. Furthermore, harmony in creation. Harmony can also refer to the ordered and designed structure of the universe, reflecting God's creative powers. And furthermore, discussing the order of natural laws. The concept of natural laws also reflects the harmonious order within creation. In essence, harmony in the Bible is more than just the absence of conflict. It's the positive state of agreement, unity, and loving relationships built on a foundation of love, forgiveness, and the alignments with God's will. This all is taken from the Bible Vision International Ministries. So what defines a troubling world? I'm going to repeat this, but I already shared it with you, but so many of us grew up on farms and ranches. And there's one thing we never worried about is our next meal. So I'm always devastated by the fact when we know that 46% of the children in Great Falls area are hungry and deficient, food deficient. That means they go to sleep hungry. They don't know when their next meal is going to come. Some of us have been teachers and worked in the schools and know the kids come hungry and they're fed breakfast and lunch often. I ran into a teacher this summer. I said, how's it going? She said, I'm worried, JP. And I said, man, about what? She said, well, I know the kids are on their summer break and I worry they're not getting enough to eat. But she said, we've secretly taken care of it. Really? Secretly? Well, I don't think you're supposed to do it. But they said, we are taking senior meals. I shouldn't be telling this, but I'm not going to tell you who said that. But they're taking senior meals to these children that are hungry. And I thought that was awesome. I said, yep. I think Jesus would approve. So anyway, also, according to some data I got for 2025, there's 16 million children in the United States that are food insecure. And what do we do about this in America? To me, it's crazy. I just almost can't believe it. I can't believe it in Montana. I can't believe it in Augusta or Choteau either. So what are examples of troubles in our congregation? This might surprise you, but we're an aging congregation. We have few people attending. What's the future of our congregations? I thought it was really kind of funny because the babies, the baby we had, I just said, isn't that refreshing? I mean, it may be annoying maybe, but for me it's like, it's the blood and soul of a church to have children, And I remember, I don't know the last time, but we had, our children's sermon up here, and they used to, the minister always did a children's sermon. So I was thinking about the babies, and I thought, you're not going to believe this. I left the Swan Valley, which is a huge city over in the population of 50 people in a 30-mile stretch. But anyway, I went to Greenville, North Carolina. My first teaching position, real teaching position, was East Carolina University. And during the interview, they asked me, what church are you going to be attending? And I said, I have no idea. I thought to myself, I don't even know if you're supposed to ask that question. But nonetheless, I said, I'll be looking. So immediately I thought about it. I said, well, I'll go to a Methodist church. And so I went to St. James United Methodist Church, and before long I joined as a member. 3,000 members, 5 ministers, 2 traditional services, 2 praise and worship services. I sang in both choirs and played and sang and played a half a dozen instruments in the praise and worship band. We had 2 praise and worship services, one at 9 and one at 11. We had 400 people attending the praise and worship services. And it was wild. We had a youth minister that I can't believe it, but I want to say he literally walked on water, at least according to these children, because they had several hundred children. This one woman says, I can't even believe it. Before he came as the minister, we couldn't even get our kid to come to church. Now he says, when's church? When are we going to church? This youth minister just nailed it. He was like 45, but he had youth humor. He nailed it. He just was gifted. So to me it was like, wow, to see youth ministry and works was pretty awesome. We also had a waiting list to get into church. Just only had so much room, so people had to be on a waiting list. All right, so that's what the other side looks like. Everything was choreographed, and I got up, and there was 6 of us lead singers. We were singing to 400 people every Sunday, and it was just like wild. Well, more on us. There's a lot of health issues that are troubling for all of us. If we haven't had them, we probably will at some point in the future. Like Jane said, we are certainly grieving the loss of one minister and welcoming another. And like I said earlier up in Dutton, I said, wow, it's amazing to me. It's like, I can hardly keep their names straight. It's like every year or two we get a new one, and I think, wow. It's like I'm thinking back, and I think, wow, it's a crazy world. But we end up kind of grieving, and it's hard to bond with somebody when you know they're not going to be here very long. Or you might be glad they're gone, or you might be looking for the new ones. The new one's going to be better. Heck, it might be worse. But dependency on lay persons. We're a small church like that, especially in Dutton. I was like, almost had tears in my eyes. What a facility! I'd never been there. My first time, and I thought, this church is unbelievable. And there's like 4 people showed up. Troubles in the world. I guess I can't get up here without talking about the war between Russia and Ukraine, the Israelis and Palestinians, the current battle between Israel, the United States, and Iran, drawing us into world conflict. You can't help but worry about terrorist attacks. It's troubling, it's problematic. We have civilian deaths, we have military deaths, we have problems in our homes, hospitals, and schools with violence. What makes this world a troubling place? We've got feelings of hopelessness. Nothing we can do. We're doomed. Divisiveness, polarization in the world. The USA, our state, local communities. We got road rage. I can remember yelling at people when I was younger. Somebody cut you off, I'd be yelling and stuff. Now I say, you might have a gun. I'm not going to even say anything. I'm sitting there, maybe I told some of you this before, but I had a really hard day. You'd think professors have it easy. They just, go there and talk all day. But one day I had a hard day, no doubt about it. And I went to the local grocery store on the way home. It's called the Piggly Wiggly. And they sell chicken parts, like feet. They sell all the chicken parts, everything. And it's like crazy. As a guy from Montana, I kind of look at all this stuff. I can't believe people buy this stuff. But anyway, I come out of the store, I get my stuff, and I drive right out of the parking lot into an intersection. And these people are coming. I don't even see them. I pull right in front of them. They beat their horn, and I look right at them, and they're giving me the one-finger salute. The one looks like 90 years old, and probably her daughter is 60. And I can read lips, and I was thinking, wow. And I felt so bad because I got my truck, and I pulled right over, like about 2 feet from them. I rolled down my window, and they rolled down their window, looking at me like this. And I said, I'm sorry. I've had a hard day at work. I really apologize. And I just want you to know I love you, and so does Jesus. And I rolled up my window and drove away. I didn't plan to say that. It's just what I said. Truth in the world, what can you trust? I mean, for me, it's like you always thought, I can trust this person, I can trust the president. Why would somebody not tell the truth? So what is truth, and where do we get it? It seems like we've become a tribal people where you're on that tribe side or you're on that tribal side. Most of us like to say, I'm pretty darn conservative in some way. I might be liberal in other ways. But I care about people. And I think love is always the solution. Seems like in the United States we ignore the Constitution, we're ignoring the rule of law. We've had politicians murdered in their homes. Then on a natural front we have climate change, hurricanes, tornadoes, drought. Where does the buck stop? How do we redirect this train wreck? How close at home do these battles need to occur before we make a decision to do something different? On a personal level, we have trouble in our families. There's alcohol addiction, drug addiction, food addiction, addiction to pornography. Heck, we're even addicted to our cell phones, even technology. I remember somebody saying, I was so confused, I was sitting there wondering what to do, and all of a sudden Siri said, why are you not happy? And a friend of mine said her husband died, and we knew that. But we went to their house for the first time, it was many years ago, maybe almost a decade, and they were saying, Siri, can you play my favorite music? And we're all going, wow, she's talking to this, Siri thing. And she said, I don't know what the recipe is for this gravy. Siri, can you please tell me the recipe? And later on, her husband died, and she was heading to church. Siri goes, don't forget your keys. True story, right? I never had a Siri that I talked to. I can on my phone, but I choose not to. It's not where I'm going. But I do have a son who's a nuclear physicist and one who's a nuclear engineer. And they're really into AI, artificial intelligence. And they said, look out, here it comes. You better get your seatbelts on because it's coming at you 90 miles an hour. I'm glad I'm not a professor or teacher anymore. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Heather. But how do you know who wrote that paper? How do you know? The only thing you're going to have to do is like oral. You're going to have no written, nothing. You're going to have to say, okay, tell me what you know. But I don't see this as bad. I see there's tons of solutions. Some bad news, additional bad news is it sounds like about 20 to 30% of all entry-level jobs are going to be eliminated because AI is going to be able to do it better and smarter and faster. And maybe have more patience when they're talking to somebody on the phone. Addiction to online gambling. In the past several years, I've been shocked at how much that's occurring. And because it's in my family and I see it when I visit, I'm saying, wow. People are, I think tiddlywinks if you gambling on that. Baseball, football, basketball, every sport imaginable are gambling. Not a lot, only $5 to $15 per game. But it's disrupting. It disrupts their family, it disrupts the communication, the relationships with their kids. On another front, we had it's sometimes when you're from Montana, you don't always get exposed to things that maybe other people do. But as a professor, I saw a lot of things. But I always knew that no matter what, God wins. God is full of acceptance. And I saw a couple of transgender youth. And I also know that sometimes if they're ignored or sometimes there's problems, there can be problems with identity issues and acceptance, and that's always troubling. Discrimination. We see it a lot. We see discrimination against people that don't look like us. They might be gay, they may be obese, they might be a different color. Wow. I always feel more friendly when I look out there and you all look like me. It's just more comfortable. But as a professor, I saw everything and they were all different. I had dreamers. Yeah, I was a social science, social work sometimes with them. And I had a group that I did, and it was a focus group, and there were 5 people, and they're all dreamers. They were the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life. I just couldn't believe it. You have this feeling dreamers going to be disjointed or not connected or something. That was not the case. So when I was exposed to people of different faiths, which made me more wide, more awake, and more wide open with the different possibilities. However, when I was putting this together, I thought, oh my God, when you're from the Flathead area, Flathead, that way, you end up not liking people from other states. When I was a kid, it's like, I don't like California people, I don't like Washington people, and I don't like Oregon people because they're moving into the Flathead and buying up all the nice homes. And my favorite place in all of Montana is, of course, Flathead Lake. And I realized, good for them. Lucky them. Awesome. I can't. And I was really, you blame them. I was like pretty angry about it because like, darn, how come they got so much money? They brag about, oh my God, I had $1 million home and sold it, bought the same thing here in Flathead for $400,000. I banked the rest. Life couldn't be better. And I realized, good for you. That's awesome. So I just decided to let that go. And then, but that's important because blaming others is not a good thing. And it's also, instead of saying how bad it was, I wanted to say, good for you. So where's the harmony? How do you get it? Well, people when I was younger said, what religion are you? I said, I'm a recovering Catholic. And it was one of those, what does that mean? Well, it means, I do endure the life of a spiritual person, and the papacy's already had a huge influence on me. So Pope Francis, man, I just followed his words and just couldn't believe his wisdom. Recently, Pope Leo had this to say. He said, the importance of family and human dignity while also emphasizing the need for church to be inclusive and welcoming. He echoed Pope Francis's message that said, war is always a defeat. He called for peaceful societies, particularly in strengthening the traditional family units. So how about us? How do we gain hope and harmony in our lives? Well, certainly through prayer. Our spiritual actions, acts of civility, random acts of kindness. One of the things that I found years ago, I always felt better if I just kind of randomly do things for a good reason, but just random. So for the last 20 years plus, I go into parking lots, grocery stores. When we go there, I try to find somebody in need, somebody who's unloading they call them grocery buggies, not carts, but grocery buggies. So I'm looking for a buggy out in South Carolina parking lot, and I see a young woman with 3 kids, and I know that she's going to have trouble, right? A little baby, tiny little baby, and got 2 little 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. So I go over there, and first I say, hi, hello. I said, I'm a father and a grandfather and a nice guy. I just like to help people unload their buggies. Oh, I said, can I help? Sure. Guys look at me and go, they look around and say, yeah, sure. I said, I'm going in, I'll take your buggy. Let me take. So anyway, random acts of kindness. I don't know, whatever it is for you, for any of you. Hey, doesn't cost nothing, and I think it does a lot. Feeding the hungry. This is the worst experience I've had in a long time. You guys, this is probably a little bit of Catholic coming out of me. But I was sitting there, it was about a couple weeks ago, and we were at the Super One in Great Falls. And Jane and I sometimes take turns. We have different banking accounts. I whip out my card and get ready to put it in. Jane says, well, you mine or mine? That's a trick question. Because it's my turn. She goes, because if I'm buying, I'm going to buy some bags of food for the hungry. And I'm thinking I'm saving up for a golf club. $600 golf club. I'm thinking golf club all the way, and she's looking at me. I drop my head down, and I'm thinking, because how do I know the food's even going to the right people? Maybe it isn't. And I came up with all these reasons why I should put money towards golf clubs and not hungry people. And Jane goes, why should we care about where the money goes? We're just giving it to a great cause. These are 4 bags of food, $40. Why worry about where it's going from there? It's other people's issue. I'm thinking, I still can't get the golf club out of my mind. I'm thinking, boy, I'm a great follower of Jesus, right? I'm thinking, it was a rugged one. But anyway, inner harmony, peace, meditation, prayer, meditation. For me, I spend a lot of my life in nature, like so many of you. We're looking at some of the most beautiful landscapes in the world every day. So a lot of mine came from wild hikes, spending 20 years in the Mission Mountains wilderness. And some of my favorite people were Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said, "In the woods we return to reason and faith. In the wilderness I find something more dear and innate than streets or villages. In the presence of nature a wild delight runs through the man in spite of real sorrows." Another one of mine was John Muir. He said, "The mountains are calling and I must go. And in every walk with nature, one receives far more than they ever seek." He also emphasized the importance of wilderness for the human spirit, stating, "Wildness is not a luxury, but a necessity of the human spirit." My all-time favorite for sure is Rachel Carson, who is the author of Silent Spring. And she quoted the fact that the beauty and healing power of the natural world and its importance is respecting nature in its delicate balance. She highlights the profound impact humans have on the environment and the reciprocal relationship between humanity, harmony, and nature. So anyway, what do we have to do to find harmony? Well, turn off the noise. That might mean different things to different people, but somehow we wake up in the middle of the night, there's noise going on, there's all these disruptions that's preventing us to have clarity. So how do we create harmony in our lives? By shutting down those things that interrupt them, for sure. I think one of the ways we create harmony is by when we greet each other. Like Jane says, I mean, she's kind of a champion at it. I mean, I thought, when we were just at Dutton, there's like 4 people, and I thought, "Jane, you've been out there 20 minutes, come on down," you know, so she's one of those people. But we share our common concerns, you know, we listen to people's, you know, you've got a granddaughter with concerns, we have people that dealing with loss in their community, you know, families and friends. So we listen. It's not like they're just sharing something and we don't listen, but we listen and we care and we express concern and love. So when I think about this, times we share loves, we think about Jesus while asking others to give prayers and positive thoughts and offering help. In more ways than one, I think about the times in our lives where we just want to be there for somebody. Just the presence. So often I think, well, what I can do is I can breathe in hope and love and exhale worries, concerns, and fears. Well, in the Beatitudes from the Bible, the Beatitudes are a series of blessings proclaiming Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount. And in shorter form, in the Sermon on the Plain, they describe the qualities and attitudes that are blessed and favored by God. These blessings are often seen as the core teachings of Jesus, outlining what it means to be a follower of Him living in His kingdom. The Beatitudes are a series of 8 blessings found in the Sermon on the Mount in the Bible. They describe the qualities of attitudes of those who are truly blessed in God's eyes and who will inherit the kingdom of heaven. Essentially, they outline the ideal character of a Christian, the rewards of living and according to God's principles. Takeaways from today's sermon. Without question, we live in a troubling world. However, we can do much to address how these troubles impact us as individuals, members of our congregation, and our society at large. Spreading love in a loveless world. Smiling. Always giving somebody the benefit of the doubt. Offering our open hand. And helping where we can. Waving and saying hello. Great to see you. One of the things that Jane and I mean, most of us go to Kalispell or Great Falls, let's say, and we see a homeless person usually at the Walmart if we're going by there, and they have signs, you know, "Please help me, I'm hungry." And so we decided to get a box of granola and some water, and we always pull up to them, "Hey, here's your granola and the water." And then I remember a few years ago, not to pick on this guy, but he says, "No, I want money for it. I want some alcohol." You know, I'm saying, geez. So, but anyway. So the other part is writing letters Maybe you just get frustrated, you're struggling with life. Write a letter to somebody, try to make a difference. Participating in a peaceful march or protest, being with kindred spirits, chipping in and helping out even when we don't want to. Most importantly, spreading love wherever you go. I end this sermon with a quote from Ernest Hemingway. And I guess I give this to men in the world that I share it with. In our darkest moments, we don't need solutions or advice. What we yearn for is simply a human connection, a quiet presence, a gentle touch. Please don't try to fix me. My pain is mine to carry. My battle is mine to face. So, in those darkest hours when I lose my way, will you just be there with me? Your silent support is the most precious gift that you can give. It's a love that helps me remember who I am, even when I forget.